Welcome back to the Yaffee program. We're here on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN, the revolution in common sense. And of course, if you miss any of the show live, the podcast will be up on the website or anywhere you subscribe, anywhere you get your podcasts. And it is Monday. That means right now we talk with Todd Stacy. He is with Alabama Daily News. You can read that every day at aldailynews.com. Or also, he is the host of Alabama Public Television's Capital Journal. And Capital Journal, the latest episode's on YouTube, and the podcast is available as well. Todd, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, Yaffee. How are you?
Doing good. So I see the main story you have at aldailynews.com is Mike Rogers. Now, he's chairman of the Armed Services Committee. He's really been pushing defense spending and the National Defense Authorization Act. He admitted, there was some spending that was passed recently. It wasn't quite as much as he wanted. But I know you guys did kind of a deep dive on this on your site.
Well, yeah, and that comes from Alex Angle. Alex is our reporter on the ground up there in Washington. It's been so great having a reporter right there in the Capitol talking with our members of Congress. Obviously, Mike Rogers is a big leader there because not only is he one of the longest serving in our delegation, he's the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. That's who writes the National Defense Authorization Act. So just like last week, she attended a press conference where it was, you got to be there to get those quotes and to see him in person. This was a sit-down interview in his office to say, what's going on? What do we need to know about this NDAA that just passed the House? Now, remember, just because it passed the House doesn't mean it's final. Matter of fact, the Senate passed a completely different version. They've got to reconcile those and see if they can work out the differences. They usually do. They usually do at the end. But this was a pretty much a party line vote, 216 to 212. The reason for that, the reason Democrats were opposed to it, is that they, first of all, object to the total amount of spending. It's $1.15 trillion. That's the most that we would ever have spent on military spending ever. So Democrats don't like that, but they also don't like kind of policy provisions. Calling it, officially renaming it the Defense Department, the Department of War, and things like that. There are some pretty bipartisan things in here, including a pay raise for service members. That's a big deal. It's important that we pay our military appropriately. But the spending increase itself really is important. I know you've seen reporting from all over that shows how one of the things we're realizing with this conflict in Iran is we're using a lot of high-tech missiles and munitions and really depleting our stores, and so our arsenal. And so that's a worrisome thing. Sometimes, like take Iraq or Afghanistan, for example, because we were using ground troops, we didn't have to just solely rely on those, far away assets. So we can't be in a situation where our Patriot missiles are depleted or other critical munitions. And so getting us back on track with more funding for those munitions is really important. But also, point you toward things that Chairman Rogers said about it's not just those high-tech things. We've got to be doing more investing in things like drones. You see how effective Ukraine has been in really using munitions that are way cheaper. I mean, they've revolutionized drone warfare. And so knowing that can be 10 times cheaper than building a Patriot missile or a Tomahawk, maybe we should be investing in things like that, knowing that we could probably do it better than anybody else. But so I encourage everybody to go read this interview. He also, Alex also works for public television, so she sat down with him on camera. That's on Capital Journal that just aired yesterday.
Yeah, the drone thing's very interesting because you actually heard that not just from Mike Rogers, but also members of the Trump administration who are saying they really need to focus on sort of cheaper munitions, like you said, could be more effective so you can get quantity, kind of quantity, not just quality. I think we need more ships as well. I know that's been a push by the Trump administration, and that to me is pretty necessary. And it's interesting, too, because a lot of people bring up the number. It's a big number, $1.15 trillion. But we've been telling NATO for years to spend, 5% of their GDP on defense? We haven't been spending 5% of our GDP on defense, So as a percentage
That's
of
right.
GDP, 1.15 trillion would get us closer to that number, right?
That's right. And part of the problem there is we've got a much, much larger GDP than any of those countries. All of them combined don't even come close. And so that's part of it. But that's why you look at percentages, right? And so, yeah, I agree. It's hard for us to do that. People sometimes think we spend way too much on the military and everything. I just don't think so. I think there are ways we could make our tax dollar go further with military spending. I think there are plenty of programs, and they could be reined in. There are always, when it comes to any kind of appropriations from Congress, political giveaways, and so I think that's where the drone thing comes in, and not just that, but other ways to be more efficient. If we're going to spend $1 billion on something, can we? Is it going to get used once, or can we get more use out of things like that? And again, I think the Ukrainians have shown the world, and we've been helping them, by the way. But I think they've shown the world that the new era of warfare is going to be different. And so anyway, it all goes back to this National Defense Authorization Act. It's $1.15 trillion. It authorizes that much in Pentagon spending. Still has a long way to go in terms of reconciliation with the Senate. It probably won't be that much at the end. Everything takes compromise, but it's a big, big deal to get this through before the August recess. It's also a big accomplishment for Mike Rogers. He's been a real stalwart of that committee, leading it, and I hope he will continue to lead it and get a waiver to do that, even though his time is technically up.
Speaking with Todd Stacy, he's with Alabama Daily News. We'll talk more Alabama politics and news in a moment, but I do want to get your reaction to the latest in Iran, since that did come up in this conversation. Trump is now holding off strikes again. Their argument is that we want to give Iran some space for negotiations. I don't know whether to call this another ceasefire or a pause or what exactly. I guess it's Operation Give Them Space. I don't know. What do you think about this?
Well, I mean, who am I to say? I don't want. I want the ultimate. I would love to know the ultimate goal. Like, what are we actually trying to achieve over there? I mean, it seems to me that victory means an Iran that's not threatening the world, and especially American allies and assets. But to achieve that, like, how is that goal achieved by leaving the current regime in place? I can't get past that. I can't get past like how the current regime that's been violent and just basically terrorists for decades is somehow going to turn over a new leaf because we had a negotiation. So maybe I'm not seeing it all. Maybe there's a chessboard that I'm not seeing the pieces on, but I just don't see how we're going to get this regime to suddenly be good actors. And I've seen people argue that maybe that Trump knows that, his advisors know that. They're just playing the game to get to some place where regime change actually takes place. But yeah, I just can't see it. I'm not a war hawk or anything. I'm not saying we always need to be at war. I just this conflict was a choice. We chose to do it, and I would really like to know what is the preferred outcome of the administration, and if that outcome is regime change, why are we waiting? Why? What are we doing to achieve that? And But maybe something's going to come of this. We'll see. It's hard for me to trust the Iranians.
Well, yeah, I mean, Iran is the problem. You can't trust them. I mean, that really is the big problem. I tend to agree with you on that. I mean, Trump gave a big speech, a couple weeks ago, and it was about election integrity, which fine, it's a good issue. But if you're going to give a big speech right now, it should be about laying out the true goals in this Iranian conflict. And it seems like he's just trying to give himself some wiggle room, I guess, to maybe not go that far. But that is, I really believe the messaging is one of the reasons why it's not as popular, the war itself. That a lot of Republicans would be on board with Trump.
From the beginning, there was no clear kind of, you got to get the American people on your side, and Congress, I mean, that might be tough, but at least make an effort. And that's why I'm saying, like, if I don't know what the goal is, I'm pretty plugged into this stuff. If I don't know what it is, and certainly most of regular folks don't either that aren't just running news agencies. I think, heard this said before, and it kind of can make a little bit of sense. Like, maybe he thought that it was going to go like Venezuela went, right?
Yep.
Basically a 36-hour operation. We're in, we're out, it's clean, and man, we won, and let's move on. If that was if anybody gave him that expectation, if anybody said, Mr. President, man, we're gonna go light them up and we'll be out of there in a week, that person should be ashamed and maybe be fired, because Iran is not Venezuela. And so, but I could see that permeating. I could see that being like, yeah, look, it was easy before. Let's just go do this again. And now we see ourselves in a prolonged conflict, and there's no easy way out.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I mean, they struck the leadership in that first initial strike, and I think they were hoping that after that it could have been like Venezuela, where you got the change. But you're right, Iran is not Venezuela. There aren't really many moderate factions there, which is a problem. Todd Stacy is with Alabama Public Television's Capitol Journal. A little under a minute here, Todd, but I did want to give you an opportunity to plug what you talked about, what you had, the guests you had on this week on your show.
Well, sure. As I mentioned, Alex had a great report from Washington on NDAA. We also talked about Reconciliation 3.0. We talked about Tuskegee Airmen and the AL2 race. Talked about gas prices and how really that's impacting those in the industry. That's the forgotten cost of that. But also sat down with Dr. Scott Harris. He's the public health officer for the state. We talked about cyclosporiasis, the really nasty disease going around, but also measles. Measles is making a comeback, which is pretty terrible. And so I wanted to get some answers from him on that. So you can go check that out at aptv.org, or just really go to YouTube. That's the easiest place to watch.
Todd, Stacy, really appreciate it. As always, we'll talk to you again in the future.
All right, Yaffee, be good.
All right, coming up next, we'll get into the Sunday News Show's recap. As you can imagine, Iran was one of the main topics, but also the midterms, also the economy, everything else as well. So we'll get to all of that next here on the Yaffee program. Stay with us.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation.
Another pina colada?
Yes, please.
Open a new retail location with 36% more square feet.
Fantastic.
Hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
Jim Rome takes on sports.
I will always have a complicated relationship with this game, but people evolve. So do sports. Do not make me regret this. Do not make me devolve back to that guy that so many clones wish that I still was. And do not embarrass the entire country. Now, I can go back. I can get there fast. Lose tonight, and you got a real problem. Do not blow it.
The Jim Rome Show podcast.
You've been warned.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Scrolling with Haley.
I'm Haley Carania. I scroll with the homies here in the live chat because there's a lot to scroll through on X, on Instagram, on TikTok.
Cutting through the clutter one hot take at a time.
Love seeing you all in the chat before the show. I tried to jump in just a few minutes before to say hello. I love the chat interaction. Thank you for helping. But I do it to get all of the videos and all of the content that you won't find anywhere else.
Scrolling with Haley.
Just search that up and I will be there.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.